Arcee, the heroic female Autobot who was introduced in Transformers the movie. And we didn't get a toy until 2001. But since then we've gotten a lot, and I am going to go over the evolution of Arcee and actually talk about some things that we almost had. So buckle up, it's time to check out this underappreciated heroine in all her incarnations. Be right back. So as you know, Arcee showed up in Transformers the movie. And even though the Search for Alpha Trion episode introduced the female Autobots, that was actually produced after they started making the movie. So if it weren't for Arcee, we wouldn't have Elita 1 and the other Autobots of the female variety. And as far as toys go, I mean, there was a model kit at one point, and there was a prototype that was discussed in 1986, and we never got it. And then the next year, with the Headmasters, they were going to make a recolor of Chrome Dome as Arcee, and we never got it. After that, we almost got an Action Master of Arcee, which would have been kind of cool, but we never got it. So 86, 87, and in the 90s, we almost got Arcee toys. It wasn't until 2001 that we got the first transforming toy that was actually called Arcee, but it looked nothing like the one in the movie. It was actually a repaint of TM2 Blackarachnia, and it was also a Botcon exclusive. Why it took us so long to get an Arcee, I don't know. The people at Hasbro were like, what boy's gonna buy a female Transformer? Well, plenty of them do. And what's weird is GoBots beat them out. From the very start, GoBots had Crasher and a number of other female GoBots, but Crasher was like a main evil character and female, and it's certainly not why GoBots failed. That was one of the bright spots of it, and Crasher was a popular character. GoBots failed for a number of reasons that we'll probably go into in another video. But Arcee was released again. Introduced in 1986, the first one was in 2001, and this is that Botcon exclusive. Now the one that I got actually came with a voice chip in the box. It wasn't as part of the toy. Only a certain number of them were made. It was for pre-registrants. People who bought them afterwards didn't get the voice chip. I managed to get one, and it was a light-activated chip with Susan Blue saying, "Don't underestimate me. I'm more than just a pretty face. Arcee, maximize." Yeah, I don't do a very good Arcee impression. But it was a great toy and a great gimmick that goes along with the toy. Now, they did make some slight remolding changes so that she wouldn't have any nipples for this particular toy. But yes, the very first one was a repaint of a Beast Wars character. And it also featured a comic book story where actually people didn't feel like Wheelie and Daniel were quite so annoying after that. Look it up. So she comes with this wonderful grappling hook fang thing, and she was kind of a widow. If we go by the G1 continuity, Daniel had been her headmaster partner, so for her to rebuild herself into a Black Widow kind of makes sense. And for 2001 and slightly earlier technology, Beast Wars technology, I mean, it was pretty good. She couldn't quite do a full Jean-Claude Van Damme, but the legs were quite articulated. She could kick high in the front and back. She could do kind of a side kick, and her knee was kind of double jointed. It's part of the transformation, but she could bend her knee like all the way. And she had movable feet. The high heels, I mean, even on Blackarachnia, it's kind of like, really? But that's what we got. Now, twisting at the waist, she could, all the way around. And her arms were pretty mobile on ball joints, but could pop off. But also couldn't go all the way around because of all the kibble, the spider legs, all this stuff. The head could turn all the way around, though. That's actually part of the transformation. And she had these little claw-type things on her arms so that she could do some damage. And also had the little thing for holding her weapon. But yes, this was the first Arcee, not what we envisioned, but it was still nice to finally have an Arcee. This was the first toy, well, one of two, where Hasbro allowed Botcon to use existing character names. And so we got the Arcee, and we also got a Botcon Tigertron, who was a repaint of the Metals Ravage in Japan. Or no, he was called Jaguar, but he was the Metals Jaguar. So it was a cool set of toys, but she doesn't stand the best. But in her crystal, she does have an Autobot symbol and not a Predacon symbol or a Maximal symbol. So that's kind of cool. And of course she changed into a transmetal spider. So there is Arcee. Yes, I had to refer to the instructions. It's been a while since I've transformed her. But as a pink Black Widow spider with mandibles and claws, and again her retracting thing here. But it's plugged in, so you can't actually shoot it out. Oh yeah, 2001, 17 years of us not getting an Arcee toy, and we get a spider. Again, it's a cool toy in the context of the story. It makes sense. It's just, it would have been nice to get an actual Arcee, which we then kind of got, but in Energon. So it wasn't necessarily the G1 character. Yes, I'm throwing in a few non-G1 versions of Arcee just because in the early days, that's what we got. She had this really weird kind of bow weapon that she couldn't really point forward. You could kind of turn her arm so that she could kind of point it forward, but honestly, this was a ridiculous weapon. And it's part of the whole Energon weapon thing, but they really, really could have done better. She's also got an Energon star right on her chest there, and she's got itty bitty hands that kind of come out like mittens right there. Still, it was an Arcee, pretty poseable. There's no Jean-Claude Van Damme for her, but she could like sit. She could kick forward. Again, she's got the high heels. The high heels, kind of annoying because they cause issues with standing a lot of the time, as you can see. And she did not become a car, but she became something closer. She became a motorcycle. But Autobot symbol, not a beast. It was actually nice to get something that was a little more vehicular for Arcee. And her head could even turn a little bit, though the way it's jammed in there, turning it all the way around is an issue. But she could transform into a very cool little motorcycle, and you could take all these weapons and attach them onto her, and it actually helped her, you know, stay upright, because motorcycle, 2 wheels. But a very cool version. Now there was slightly different coloration on Ariel, which is the Japanese name for Arcee, and there was wildly different coloration on the Paradron type Ariel. Yes, I consider this the Paradron Medic, but it's actually Ariel just in green and Paradron-ish. And again, a cool version of Arcee, just again, not a car, which would have been nice, but a pretty cool motorcycle in green with, you know, green weapons. Oh, in the Magna Convoy DX set, by the way, there was a mini-con called Arcee. I don't happen to have that, so you'll have to deal with what I do have. But here's a nice picture. Now there was, in the titanium line, an Arcee planned. It was actually shown at Botcon, but that line was canceled before that could come out. There was one that came out though that I don't happen to have, but here are some pictures of the Vinyltech, who is a redeco of Decepticons, a Street Performance Honda S2000. I don't know, I'm not a car guy, but alternators were a cool line. The forms of the vehicles were very realistic, normal vehicles, not her space car design, but they were still cool. In fact, none of the cars really looked exactly like the G1s that they were based on. But a couple years later, because Vinyltech, that one was in 2008. 2010, we got an Arcee we did not expect. It was the animated Arcee. Yes, from Transformers Animated, which is such a cool show. Yes, very stylized, but they came out with this Arcee. Very nice, very cool version of Arcee. Totally different backstory. She was a teacher bot, but then she became a spy. Now, one thing you gotta be careful of are her thumbs. I think I might have gotten one of the later ones that the thumbs are not as fragile, but you might find some of these out there with broken thumbs. But pretty good mobility. No Jean-Claude Van Damme, but for the legs, the arms did pretty well moving around. The head could certainly turn all the way around disconcertingly. And she's very much in that anime style. She had light piping for the head. And apparently, her and Ratchet were kind of buddy-buddy. I don't know if there was some romance in there. Oh, shut up. She's got these 2 attachments that become kind of like wings on the car. But a very cool version of the character, even if it wasn't exactly G1. So there is Arcee in her vehicle mode. She's actually a car-ish. I mean, she's got 4 wheels on the bottom there. Quick roll test. Animated did pretty dang good. Now, I seem to recall being able to put the swords into the back here as storage, but that doesn't seem to want to work right now, so I could be misremembering, or I could just not want to shove them in and possibly break the swords. Now, this was also released in Japan, which I still have in the package here, with slightly different colors, but generally the same toy. And very cool that we finally got a car Arcee, even though it was in the animated line and wasn't, again, the G1. So animated came out in 2010. 4 years later, we got the ultimate Arcee, the Thrilling 30. Many consider this to be the best Arcee. She came with 2 swords, 2 guns, and had light piping with glowing blue eyes when the light hit it properly. So just to give you a look without all the weapons, you can see she's very much like her Transformers the movie version, and she could pretty much almost do a full Jean-Claude Van Damme. Because of her transformation, her hips are kind of double jointed. Shut up, Logan. But she can kick forward. Kicking back, she ran into some problems with some of her back pieces, though you could kind of maneuver them. I forgot to fold that underneath. And she could bend at the knee, swivels around, the joint being right above her knee. She could kick to the side somewhat. No heels. Well, no high heels, but she did have heels for stability. Now, she unfortunately does not twist at the waist, but her arm has a lot of movement, bends at the elbow, it can swivel, and the head turns all the way around. An awesome version of Arcee with all these weapons. I mean, she's loaded for bear, or, you know, Decepticons. And she transformed into a very similar to her G1 movie appearance vehicle, and you could even put the weapons on her in her vehicle mode, the swords on the sides and guns on the back. Again, considered at the time to be the pinnacle of Arcee molds. Let's see how it rolls. Not the best, but not the worst. And I may have her slightly misaligned, but still a very cool Arcee, the one we were waiting for. Now, in Japan, for the Legends line, they did release one which was a lot more animation accurate, didn't have as much black, but I don't have that one, so Thrilling 30 is what you get. But that didn't happen until a year later, in 2015. But at the same time in 2015, here in the US, they released another version of Arcee, but wildly different. It was the Combiner Wars version, which was basically the Thrilling 30, but they gave her a huge ass sword. She was part of the Combiner Hunters team with Chromia and Windblade, and that sword really overbalances her a bit. But an extremely cool figure, a repaint, but a badass repaint. A very cool black and pink convertible, and again, you could put her swords on the sides for weapon storage, or because you didn't have the guns, you could even just put them on the back. There's no weapon storage for this. This is bigger than she is. And these Thrilling 30s were about 4 3/4 inches long without the weapons, and rolled decent. Now there was, in 2016, the Q Transformers, the itty bitty one. Check out this picture. I don't have it. It's cutesy, but I wouldn't mind having one, but I'm not gonna hunt it down. I'm not that concerned. I like Arcee, though. Just not enough to spend a lot. If I come across one, I'll pick it up. But then also in 2016, same mold, but it's the Platinum Edition. Probably a little closer to the Japanese Legends, this repaint, but came boxed with, not with you, Sky. Sky is here to say hello. But yeah, she came with Springer, Ultra Magnus, Cup, Blur, and Arcee all in one Platinum Edition box. No Hot Rod, oddly. But we get enough Hot Rods, don't we? But again, this mold, I had her a little bit discombobulated. This mold, definitely again considered one of the best Arcee molds out there. And they used it a lot, but even more like the original car that we saw in Transformers the movie. But it would appear they were through with that mold, maybe? Because in 2017, they came out with a whole new Arcee, which was the HasCon exclusive Titans Return. A repaint of Blur and remold, and with a head called Leonad, which is Daniel spelled backwards. How's that? Also came with a Ultra Magnus head that was included in the package. But this was a whole new Arcee, and could do a full Jean-Claude Van Damme. How's that? About time. Kick forward and back. The legs swiveled near the upper hip. Bent at the knee, had a little spike there to cause some maximum damage. Doesn't have any type of ankle swivel or anything. Arms could go all the way around, bends at the elbow, swivels, head, master could turn, or Titan Master, whatever you want to call them, and could actually twist all the way around at the waist. A very cool version of Arcee. Like I said, a repaint of Blur, and even had weapon storage on the bottom. And Leonad, which kind of resembles an exosuit, to be honest, could sit inside. And it rolls pretty dang well. So definitely a cool version of Arcee. Not quite as accurate looking as the Thrilling 30, but a very cool toy from 2017. A convention exclusive, the one and only Hascon. Not saying that there's not others, I'm just saying that was the one. Then they didn't do any more. But yeah, we're done with the whole Thrilling 30 mold, right? Wrong. 2018 Street Fighter versus Transformers. A Thrilling 30 repaint as Chun-Li from Street Fighter. Has an Autobot symbol. Technically, it's considered an Arcee. It's also considered Chun-Li, but a very cool looking toy. So even she falls over a bit. And you could possibly spin her around and okay. Yeah, I'm not breaking it for the sake of a video game. But yeah, flesh-toned arms, which is interesting. Flesh-toned face, but nonetheless a Transformer. I do have to say it is very cool deco. And again, you can store the swords on the sides and the guns on the back, but it's a very interesting looking deco. And our steering wheel's a different color. Nice yellow wheels and rolls very nicely. Maybe I just transformed this one perfectly, unlike the others. Blue guns, yellow swords, an awesome version of Arcee. But the coloration reminds me a little bit more like Prime. By the way, you probably notice Prime Arcee is not in this. The movie Arcees I have not shown yet. I will do a separate video. Yes, I did include some Arcees that were not G1, but I'm gonna have another companion video which focuses on the Prime Arcee and the movie Arcees that I have, Rise of the Beasts, Bumblebee, all that stuff. So you will see those. We'll get there. But now we need to move on to Earthrise. War for Cybertron, Earthrise. Now this one, people did not consider as good as the other Arcee. I mean, the head sculpt is very nice. The coloration is very nice. But she's got this whole huge backpack thing that a lot of people don't really like, and you can actually take it off and she could stand on it like a hoverboard. She even got holes in her feet, just like a Star Wars action figure, and she could ride this puppy. I don't even know if I have her on here right, because I never use it like that. I would much rather have her wear it on her back and have a little bit more of a backpack. But the Earthrise, again, the way they make her hips, usually she can't do a full Jean-Claude Van Damme. I do appreciate the fact that some of the female Autobots nowadays that they make are not shapely feminine bots, but in some cases you can't even tell just looking at them that they're female. And I've made that mistake, and it's been a mistake. There's no denying that Arcee looks very feminine, but there's a lot more Autobots that now you can't necessarily look at them. And even one of the Infernac universe ones that I did not know was female, because I messed up. I didn't watch some other stuff before that, and so misidentified that particular Transformer. But I actually appreciate the fact that not all of the female Autobots look so, dare I say, sexy. I mean, there are people who wanna, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I am not one of those people, but she could twist at the waist all the way around. Great flexibility in the legs. Shut up, Logan. Could knee, could pivot the legs all the way around. The arms, if it weren't for the backpack, could go all the way around. Bends at the elbow. Even has some wrist articulation, which is interesting. Part of the transformation. The head, of course, can go all the way around. So it's not a bad figure at all, but some people considered her to be even more of a shell former because of this. And there she is. I think I've got her transformed. It's been a while since I've transformed this one. And I have to say, her chest kinds of causes it not to roll very well, unless I just have it slightly mistransformed. It's quite possible. But yeah, decent Arcee, looks better in robot mode, and that's where I'm gonna keep her. But that is the Earthrise. But 2020, which was when Earthrise came out in that particular Arcee, was a big year for Arcee. She actually had like 3 more versions of herself come out that year. One such version was the Masterpiece. Only released in Japan, but they did put out a Masterpiece edition of Arcee. Now, with the thin feet, doesn't stand very well. Trying to get her to stand for you and see if I can do a 360 spin. And of course you fell down. That's the problem with some of these female Autobots that they've made, is they've made some very questionable foot decisions. And this isn't the worst. But in addition to the gun that you can see her holding right there, she has a sniper rifle. I don't even know what that is. She's got the little piece that goes onto her tire to trip up some Junkions. She's got a little pistol. It's got like 3 alternate faces. Now this is a counterfeit reissue. Also comes with more blast effects. So lots of accessories and very posable, though again, because of the way her hips are, there's no Jean-Claude Van Damme. She can kick forward and back, she can drop her gun, she can kick somewhat to the side, she can knee, nice healthy knee bend there. She can twist all the way around. Her arms can kind of go all the way around if you avoid her backpack. Her head can turn all the way around, she bends at the elbow, she's got swivels all over the place. I mean, a very cool version. When you look at this, you think this is Arcee. It is a masterpiece. And again, this is a counterfeit reissue. I will put a link in the description to this. But a very cool version of Arcee, and of course, changes into her vehicle. And there's the masterpiece in her vehicle mode. Very nice. A little bit of a pain in the ass to transform, I have to say. I mean, I like the look of masterpieces, but I have to say, sometimes it gets really, really, really complicated. Like if you don't have them exactly in the right spot, things pop out. It's an annoyance. Also in 2020 was the Cyberverse Deluxe. About as far from a masterpiece as you could get as far as the complexity. But a lot of people actually liked her better than the Earthrise. And she could almost do a full Jean-Claude Van Damme. Kick forward, back, bend at the knee, swivel, arms move, twisted at the waist all the way around. So you did have to maneuver some of the car on her back. Head went all the way around, bend at the elbow, swiveled. Just a very interesting version of Arcee. However, I do have to say, most definitely a shelf former. There she is in her vehicle mode, and even has weapon storage right underneath. Not the best at rolling, but not the worst I've seen. Now in 2021, they did do a Kingdom version of Arcee, which was basically a package refresh of the Earthrise, so no changes there. I didn't bother picking one up. But they did, with the Behold Galvatron set, create an itty bitty, very hard to see version of Arcee that would fit in with the Unicron. Kind of. Very, very small. Now in 2022, we got 2 different Arcees. One was from the Authentics line, and though it was small, it was definitely bigger than the one with Behold Unicron. The main problem with this bot, getting it to stand. The legs, the feet are horrendous, so it's better just to hold it. Yeah, it doesn't stand well on a shelf. Definitely would recommend putting her in vehicle mode rather than trying to make her stand. Because as you can see on the back, the legs are hollow and I have touched the sky. Oh, wait, if you pull them out far enough, I forgot that there is a little extension in the knee area. You might get her to stand for a very short period of time. I am not gonna spin. All right, I'll try very slowly to spin. But yeah, it doesn't stand the best. Very hollow, very cheap, very inexpensive. But when you put her in her vehicle mode, it's actually not bad. Her gun actually forms a little fin on the back, but she rolls pretty good for a cheap little transformer. And lastly, we have the Studio Series. This is a Studio Series 86 from the movie, and it actually has elements of the Thrilling 30, though a little bit different. I did a review of this particular figure, comparing it to the Thrilling 30, but it doesn't look bad, but definitely, like many of the Arcees, a bit of a shelf former. And of course, not quite a full Jean-Claude Van Damme. Can kick forward and back, knee, swivel, head can spin around. Doesn't twist, well, actually does twist at the waist, I'm sorry. So that's one thing that it has over the Thrilling 30. And I actually appreciate this version of Arcee because it has some, even though it is a bit of a shelf former, it's a clever shelf former. And there she is, the Studio Series. I mean, a lot of people complained about her. I think she's fine, very reminiscent of the original. All of these have good parts and bad parts. Now again, there's a number of Arcees, the Earthspark Tacticon, Transformers Prime Arcee, there's movie versions of Arcee, Rise of the Beast Arcee, Bumblebee Arcee. Those we will go over in another video. I'm not ignoring them. I'm just sticking to the ones that are more G1 in form, in concept, even if some of them are motorcycles. And one's a goddamn spider. And we have another that's a Street Fighter. But this is a great collection of Arcees. It shows how she's changed from being nothing to Beast Wars to something much more G1 in look and feel. But again, I will be doing a video on Prime Arcee, Movie Arcee, and if I find some other Arcees, you never know. No Arcee Cola. But this was a long video. If you're watching now, I really appreciate you sticking with me. And despite some moments of frustration with some of these guys, I did enjoy presenting all these Arcees to you, and I hope you enjoyed it too. And of course, if you're enjoying my content, please feel free to subscribe. And while you're mulling over these, because I will put links to all this stuff, this is a lot of links, but I'm putting a lot of links in the description for you if you want to pick up some of these guys. And while you're mulling over all these various versions of Arcee, we have a video on Alita 1 over here. A couple different versions. It's actually a versus review. And we will see you next time. As always, have fun and good hunting.